And we're live. Okay, first of all, I would say welcome everyone to this live stream where we're going to talk about nature is the real mainstream. I want to welcome Lynn, MysteriouStranger, and Neirum to the, I feel, very special live stream event that we have here on the Moment podcast. And yeah, I just want to first welcome you all.
Thanks, man. How's it been?
Thank you.
Great to be here.
It's been going okay. Some personal stuff to take care of, but I'm very excited to be talking about this particular topic regarding nature is the real mainstream, especially because I kind of feel like it's really something to flip things on its head, looking at like how we usually look at it, more from the, I guess, perspective of humans, or like cities being this like mainstream thing where nature is kind of seen as this like thing that is just out there on the edge.
Yeah, like the other.
Yeah, like the other
alien planet. Like the trees are not welcome in our city realms unless they're like really tiny ones. It freaks us out for some reason. It's like too chaotic, or you'll get a disease or something will eat you. That's what people usually think of when they think of nature. It scares them. They're afraid they're going to die in it.
I guess it's so complex that people don't really understand how it works, because really what it does is like it's a community of very diverse different life forms that are together making this planet habitable for us humans. So I would call that mainstream. That's what we need. We need a habitable planet.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, the lack of knowledge of it, does scare people. People don't know what to do in it. They don't know what plants are what's edible, what's poisonous. So yeah, that's a good point. It is extremely complex, and that might be part of it, why people are afraid.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense regarding that, I guess, to some degree. Yeah, but I don't know, like I do feel like, though, from if you specifically look at it from like a grander scheme perspective, like like a grander historical overview of all these different civilizations and all these different cultures, it becomes very clear that there's like a pattern going on there with the civilizations, where it's like almost like a heartbeat of like humanity. Like these they come and they go, but then what, if you look at it, like what's there still at the center, and that's what is still going on, despite this fluctuation of these civilizations and these cities and these things, is nature. And it seems to be, that's what we kind of end up returning to at that point. But then, it makes me also feel like, well, maybe it's that what we need to continuously reconnect with. So we, it doesn't have to come to that point of where we lose connection with it, and like, I don't know, like, how you said, Neirum, one time, like that we're steering the ship like over the edge of the cliff, like too far away from things.
Yeah, it's like everybody wants to go further and further into these cities, like makes people feel safer. They feel like they understand traffic cones and yelling taxi drivers more than birds and tigers and trees in the woods. Like for whatever reason, we think that's what we want. We think that that's better for us, but it's not. It stresses us out even more. Our bodies aren't designed to navigate this gridlock city concrete jungle type of thing. Not supposed to be crammed so close together like sardines. It makes people hate people. You start to see other people like cockroaches, like a nuisance to you that you want to step on. When you're packed into a city, you don't see people as wonderful individuals that have interesting insights on things that can enhance your life through conversation or whatever. They become in your way. It's like, get out of my way. I gotta go to work. I gotta get my coffee. I'm trying to go eat. Always in a big hurry. Don't have any time to like chit chat with anybody. And then you go out into a country where there's more trees. You might have a few buildings. There's a lot less people. You see somebody in the grocery store, you'll stop and talk to them for 30 minutes. Because you don't feel that way. You're happy to see somebody. Maybe it's because you're surrounded by deer and squirrels, and there's the birds everywhere and the trees, and it's more stimulating to your mind. It's something your body recognizes, rather than just being surrounded by these skyscrapers everywhere. Like, ugh. In the city, it's just a weird feeling to me. It's like this intimidating feeling with all of these buildings so high up around you. It's such an unnatural thing to like look straight up at this steel concrete mountain that all these people built, and you see these windows and all these little dudes walking around doing God knows what all day long up there. It's just crazy. It's an awe-inspiring thing, sure. The city's like, wow, it's amazing. We've made a bunch of glass mountains that people hang out in all day shuffling papers, but it just doesn't feel right still. It's amazing, like, yeah, but it just doesn't feel like what we're supposed to be doing. It's a waste of our talents, it feels like. I don't know. There's something better we could be doing with our intelligence, rather than just building these big monolithic structures that aren't going to last past 100 years. You got to maintain them. You got to do all this crazy stuff to make sure the steel doesn't rust and repaint everything and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I don't know. I just think we should build something cool, but I'm rambling on too much.
I think you're having good points there, Neirum. And I think like that it's much about like quality of life. Like, do we really want to be crammed in one spot, like with so many different, so many people in one spot and not much nature in there? Or do we want to have more spaciousness and more space to have a community together with nature instead of just humans and what we built, but to build together with nature and have that like work together?
Yeah, that would be so cool. I always really liked that that Ewok village in Star Wars. I just like the aesthetic of people living in tree houses, and like partying and like hunting and gathering and building stuff and having cool little inventions and just everybody chilling, for the most part, trying to do their best within nature. And what was cool about them is these little teddy bear dudes. They got all these really heavy logs and figured out how to make these little bombs, and they took on the Empire, and they couldn't, defeat them. it was like Vietnam or something. You know, these people were so in touch with nature, and they had all these tunnels dug everywhere and these traps set up, and you know, there's like no competing with that. You know, you have like a mechanized army going into the woods, like the jungle, and there's no way that you can like figure the jungle out without like napalming it, bulldozing it, you know, utterly destroying it. Like that's the only way you can fight that. And that takes a lot of time, and that's not easy to do while you're getting like bombs thrown at you and 7-ton logs rolling down a mountain at your base, you know, and just flattening everybody. And that was just really cool to see as a kid, you know, these little teddy bear dudes living in tree houses, in touch with nature, you know, kicking the ass of this technological wizard people that have Death Stars and Star Destroyers. It was, I thought it was a really cool scenes.
I don't know what just kind of brings to mind to me would be, I guess, you know, not just this connection with nature, but I guess more like how you were saying, Lynn, about like building together with nature. So maybe more in the sense of even the way we construct things, that we think about it in terms of that what, so like maybe like like that what we're building is not something like we're building a city or a community or a village and then there's nature, but that nature is the center, and then we kind of like like work with nature, and we try to figure out how to kind of like embed the community of humans within the wider community of nature, like so that we can like work together, maybe like more natural materials too. I don't know. What do you think about that, Lynn?
Yeah, I think so. Like that there should be like this sphere where there's both humans and more of nature together. But also, I guess there should be these areas of nature that is just not messed with much by humans. I guess we can visit there, but we shouldn't be messing with everything because we don't really know what we're doing, because nature has been here a lot longer than us, and it needs us not to go in with all our machines and just try to assert our control over it, because we might do some damage, and we have done some damage that is not good for us, for the whole system. We're getting rid of biodiversity that we need for the adaptability of the system, and yeah, we need those nature reserves, those national parks, huge areas where nature can be nature, and then we have areas where there's humans and nature together, bit like working together, seeing like how we can have a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, but it does make me then think also about like these ancient, you know, traditions too, where, you know, these ancient pagan traditions with the sacred groves that they had, where they would, you know, set these areas apart where, you know, you couldn't hunt, you couldn't like do any fishing or any of the other sort, and it was, you know, like protected in that sense, and humans could not intervene in these areas or like do anything. It was kind of like left to its own devices, understanding that like, well, I mean, it's nature, you know, it was seen under these different deities then, but it's protected under these different deities. They know what they're doing. we kind of like, yes, surrender control regarding that. But, and then there were some areas where, humans indeed could do things like, they in certain areas they were, trying to live together with nature more in that sense that you were talking about, Lynn.
Yeah.
But I do feel, yeah, go ahead, Neirum.
There's this book that I read years and years ago. It's called Old Man's War by John Scalzi. It's a sci-fi book. And maybe that book might have some insight in what we're talking about this balance. Like how do we figure this out? Because we make one of two choices. We either, live in like a dark age, or, like we're really in touch with nature without technology, or we go full on city, spaceship, artificial intelligence, wackadoodle stuff there. There's always like these two extremes, like a pendulum swinging. And that's like really aggravating, because it seems like, there should be like a healthy balance in the middle.
Yeah.
So, okay, this book, Old Man's War, it's about, people living in the future, and, people go to space and live on other planets. But the thing is, nobody on Earth is allowed to leave the planet unless you sign up for the military. And the only way you can sign up for the military is if you're over 75. And, nobody really knows why that is. Why you got to be like a really old person in order to join the Space Navy, but you do. And so anyway, this guy's wife dies, and he's like, he just turned 75, and he decides to go join, the Space Navy. And he doesn't know. He's like, I'm old as hell. I don't know what you guys expect me to do, but, here I am. I'm ready to sign up. And once you sign up and you leave the planet, you can never, ever come back. Like, ever. You can't visit your family. You can't talk to them. You can't write them a letter. It's like you're effectively gone. You're gone. You're never coming back. And everybody, just kind of thinks, oh man, what do they do? These old people are like, they just like throwing them out to aliens, or what is going on? But there's this law where anything in space cannot be talked about. Any technology outside of the Earth, like out in space, it can never be brought down onto the Earth, because they want to protect the culture, the genetic bloodline of humanity. They don't want any of this crazy shit they're doing on the moon or these other planets to interfere with the nature of humanity and the forests and the animals and everything. And I thought that was interesting. So this dude, he goes up into space, and he's like, all right, here I am. I'm old. What kind of crazy stuff are we getting into here? And they're like, we're going to download your brain into another body with like this Neuralink thing. And they download his brain and give him this like really young body, and it's like all genetically engineered and part cybernetic and all this crazy stuff. And then he's telepathic, and he can talk to other people with the same body because it has like a networked, internet, just all this crazy stuff. And the story just gets crazier and crazier with like the type of technology and stuff that humanity is dealing with. Like they can like open up a black hole and it can suck down a whole moon in a second. So they keep that stuff as far away as possible from the Earth, because they have a little sense about them. They're like, we definitely cannot mix what makes us human and makes us what we are. So we want to protect people for as long as possible. So that, I guess that's why they pick 75 years old, because naturally that averages out to how most human beings, how long we live, and gives everybody a chance to kind of leave the earth and do some really crazy stuff. But I really appreciated that desire to protect the planet and protect nature and protect humanity in general, except for the people that are like about to die, and they might have enough maturity to deal with some of this crazy shit that the other side of humanity wants to do too, which is the spaceships, the AI, the black hole generators, just all this really wild shit that we shouldn't be doing here on the earth. You know, it's just way too crazy, it's dangerous. What's it going to do to everything else? But they did have this concept of, but we could do it really far away, right? And of course, all kinds of stuff always goes wrong and it's super dangerous, but it also satiates that part of us that wants to try. But anyway, I know that was long-winded, but I thought it was a very interesting way to deal with that problem of the pendulum swinging between reaching for something super advanced and it falls apart, or settling for living in the woods around a campfire, but then everybody's going to get sick of that and want to do the cities again anyway. So maybe that would be a solution.
I don't know. I guess in the yeah.
I was just going to say, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to deal with this problem of wanting to reach for the stars, but then we keep falling back down, and the earth is like this. The nature is always the solid thing that catches us and helps us survive after each societal collapse.
I don't know. Yeah, just go ahead, MysteriouStranger, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I was remembering of the first explorers that reached America. I think it's Norwegians, right? It was Iceland. No, Greenland. They came from Greenland, and all their attempts failed, one after the other. At first, because they didn't know the terrain very well, and they were trying to reach Greenland, and the first one lost their way and reached the northeast coast of Canada. They didn't recognize what they were seeing, but they knew that it didn't look like the place that they wanted to reach. It was something new.
Yeah.
And eventually they tried to find their way back. Then the second one, they went there intentionally with the purpose of creating a settlement. Of course, it was about owning their own land at the end of the day. And they were unsuccessful at first because they didn't know the weather very well in that new literally a new world for them.
Yeah.
Because at first it was just a mountain with rocks, very similar to what they used to. So the soil was not good. Then they went to the forests and they tried to make a settlement there, like a midway place to go back to. And then they stumble upon a place that was really, really good for farming. So good that they found grapes almost everywhere. Like one of them I used to see back in what was Germany back then.
Yeah.
And they call it Vinland because of that. But they didn't knew that place was already habited. The natives, they were already there, and they already knew about the cycle of the stations. They have been there for way, way longer.
Yeah.
They have adapted, and they live from the land. It was interesting. It's like it was like the Vikings were used to take what they wanted from among themselves and from other cultures, but this culture still live from the land, and they didn't own it necessarily.
Yeah.
They lived from it. The only conflict was among other tribes that may want to take your space there, but you didn't own the space. Of course, there was a confrontation between
Yeah.
the Vikings and the natives because the Vikings strike first, trying to capture them. It was their first impulse because that was what they were used to. There was a final attempt.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of able to trade with the natives until, of course, didn't something went wrong, and the misunderstanding ended up in a fighting, and they have to abandon the settlement. And kind of like what Neirum was saying, they went back to what they knew better. They went back to Greenland.
Yeah.
And it was like that in many other places around the world in different periods. Like the world we live in was a much bigger place, like uncharted. It was a mystery, and there was always a conflict amongst people for the ownership of the land. Even and then I think it's like going from the you are here and you just take what you need. You don't try to shape the, for example, you get used to the weather and the seasons in order to know what to cultivate in that frame of time, and things grow slowly. Honestly, so the rhythm is different when you try to communicate with nature, but it's different as time went on. Cities became, well, villages become cities, and those cities start to build walls around the cities in order to protect themselves from other people, but it starts to become detached from nature. It's but still living from nature. Eventually, it's weird how the necessity to protect yourself becomes the like the reason to attack others, and that extended to nature, to the ecosystem itself, because of course even animals do this. Like they build their homes in nature, they shape it to a degree, but they don't destroy it to the point where it cannot grow back again. It's like that balance, and humans as a species used to have that, but then again we continue to become more and more people, more and more of us, and we didn't we didn't. There was a point where we didn't adapt to the ecosystem. We make the ecosystem adapt to our needs. It's always the nature is a resource. It's not something that is. It's not a collective or an entity that you are communicating with through your actions, through your habits, like trying to get to know its cycles, right?
Should be though.
Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of like you were thankful when it rained. You were thankful for the good weather. You were thankful that you were able to eat. You were thankful that you were able to be alive, to live. Then this gets diluted into to consume. Like you have the right to consume, thus you do it. But even people, like they treat their environment like some kind of store. Now, from one point, it starts to become like that. You pay for the right to own it and do with it whatever you want it, and then you want to consume more of that or more things, even if that is unnecessary or not. There's a point where you don't distinguish the difference. I see when people go to the field or the woods or the a shore or a lake, a river, a mountain. They treat it as if they were going to a attraction park, you know? Like I own this place, I have the right to consume it. And it's kind of that extends even to sanctuaries, for example. I remember when I visited this place in Mexico where there is this butterfly that immigrates from Canada all the way to Mexico in the change of seasons. Monarch butterfly, I think that is called. And the thing is that was my first time going there. And they told us that we have to climb the mountain for a longer time because the tourists disturbed the butterflies when they were hibernating. Thus, when the butterflies came back 1 year after the other, over many years, they started to hide themselves higher in the mountains so they were not disturbed. And yet, when I was there were quite a few people that even tried to touch the hibernating butterflies, and you weren't supposed to do that because they were hibernating in a state that if you disturb them, there was a risk for them to die. Like they have this dust on their wings, and there was a reason for that. And if you disturb them, and they wouldn't be able to recover and have enough energy to immigrate again and fly all the way to Canada back again. And there were each year like these decrease on their population because of that. I even saw a kid that grabbed a stick and started to smash them. Why? Well, just because he was bored. He was bored. He was dragged along by his mother and grandma, and he just, I don't know, he was bored, so he started to smash the butterflies. It's not, yeah, it was bad, but it serves as an example. Even people when they go to I don't know, Walmart or a big store like that, they don't even respect the store itself. You don't eat. You have the right to consume things, but on top of that, you even have the like the right to do whatever you want with the merchandise there because you're the customer. You know, it's and at some point is tolerated, and then and in another extreme of that, people abuse of that right. Like it's implied, you can do whatever you want with what is around you because it's yours until someone tells you otherwise. There's not. I don't know. Maybe it's the difference of how we are raised. Like older people have a more
Yeah.
I don't know. They adapt to their surroundings, and some of them respect it, like a mutual respect among their peoples. And as the younger generations go, they don't really respect one another, and it goes to being entitled to be there, to that the world is there to function, to satisfy your needs, even when the individual doesn't really understand if they need it or not. Um, that's the phrase that I started to hear uh, from some time now. I think a few years. Go and touch grass. I think that's the meaning. Yeah, go back to nature. Like chill. Just try to chill. And it's not that we become disconnected of nature. We also become disconnected of the uh, human communities that we are living. And yeah, I guess it goes full cycle because people are starved for that connection. And we're looking back, way back, and try to connect with nature again because, well, it's necessary.
It very much it very much is so. But I do want to say though regarding all of this that this whole entire modern perspective that nowadays is very dominant is not a perspective that's been very dominant throughout history. A lot of different cultures used to respect nature and would have these areas. Maybe not all cultures in equal amounts, but there would be an understanding there of the need to be, respectful regarding the environment. But I guess it also comes from an understanding of like that if one isn't respectful of the environment and one creates harm, they would have this sense of like, having to give back repair. The understanding comes from the fact that they understood that if they fuck up their environment and just do whatever they want to it, that long term they're gonna harm themselves just as much, because we very much depend on upon the environment itself. There's this like picture that I created that I just put up now, where it says the ecosystem is there at the bottom. Then you have the collective unconscious, the archetypes are there, the spiritual, cultural, that's more like the communal, social. That's very much like the more like mythological, cultural, and social and communal layers of of existence. Where you have on top here this this other pyramid that's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I kind of feel that we tend to like somehow flip this whole thing upside down, where nature, I don't know, somehow like nature becomes disconnected from it, and we're not understanding like that any of these things there in this Maslow hierarchy of needs is only possible because of all of the underlying things. And if we start to, if we start to act like this like serpent that eats at the root of the world tree, we're gonna create the tree will fall if we keep eating at the roots, and we're not seeing that if we keep eating at the roots, at the ecosystem, that we're gonna doom ourselves, that the tree will fall. So, we need to, in that sense, I feel like, give back, repair, and to strengthen the base of the pyramid in that sense. And I kind of feel like the only way to do that is to actually, from like a long-term perspective, to understand that nature is at the very core of life itself, and that everything else depends upon it, depends upon each other. And that that's just what I wanna add. I don't know if anyone has any more to say regarding that, about that, shifting this perspective and seeing instead like nature as the center. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, like nature being the center of existence and of like, this foundation of everything.
I do think that the ecosystem is our most basic need. And regarding like how it was traditionally seen, it was regarded as sacred even, and there was like this respect for it, that maybe we have kind of lost that perspective in our modern age. I hope not completely, but it seems like a lot of the things that are being done, it's not seen from a holistic perspective with how we need that biodiversity, and we need to bring that into everything we do, like how we care for the land. Because like in nature, there isn't monocultures. There isn't just one type of tree and nothing else growing there. And that doesn't happen without human interference. And we gotta start to notice like that we can't do that on huge areas. We need to have that diversity there so that we have a functioning ecosystem, because that's what we need to be able to have a continuation of human culture in the long run. And it's really starting to become like time to change these things, man.
Yeah, I do feel so. It's like, if you think about it, what I just want to add still to it before giving the talking stick to all of you else, is just, it just made me think of like Ma'at and like Egypt and like why they lasted so long. But that's just what I wanted to add to it. I'm gonna shut my blabber mouth for a bit and let you all speak and give your ideas.
Actually, also, good evening to all.
Good evening.
Good eve.
What's up, man?
I believe one crucial thing is that in our culture, even as we develop through the years and there is a rise in environmental awareness and such, there is still this notion of going to another planet, like needing to go another planet because there is doomsday clock for our specific planet. And instead of trying to make our home in order, like Earth, to take care of our home, we are thinking how we can make Mars livable and viable, like another planet, how we can live and sustain life to another planet, and how we can terraform it, even though right now we have a Terra on our hand. And this is very paradoxical, if you think about it.
Yeah, very much so.
Mom, I want another Earth. No, my child. We have Earth at home.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, I just want to say regarding that, just like, it is really weird. It's like if we would take, it's like we just need to take better care of what we do and like and give back repair so we can like stabilize these things. And it's like, why aren't we? It feels like very simple in a way, but I guess like it doesn't feel that way, or maybe it's like, because like when maybe it's like this need for this shift in perspective. I don't know. What are your thoughts all on that, like regarding this, and maybe also bringing it then to like, well, like how could we like instead then later, like yeah, like how would it look like this shift in perspective? Like how would we be doing things then instead? Like how we're now trying to quote unquote solve this situation.
Well, I don't see any reason we can't do both. I mean, I've always been an advocate of that. Like, we can have our forests and, live in harmony with nature and, grow our own food and figure out really good ways to live in harmony with the earth and the animals, and have wolves running around, and like maybe like we talked about before, a sonic fence of some kind that keeps the wolves away, where you don't have to murder all of them, and they can do their job in the forest of maintaining the ecosystem, and we don't need to have all these helicopters and thermal cameras and all this math trying to figure out what we need to kill and what we need to keep alive. Like actively playing God. I think we could figure out a way to surf the waves of nature and move into a better future where we can still do all this interesting stuff we're into. I don't think it's a bad thing to build telescopes and look up into the stars and then want to build rocket ships and go out there and see what it is. I think that's perfectly normal, and even what we're supposed to do as human beings, because there's no telling what our limits are if we can live in harmony with things and do it in a balanced approach, instead of one extreme or the other. I don't think we're destined to live in the forest around a campfire dancing till the end of time. I don't think that's our story. I think our story ends somewhere in the stars, like we're supposed to go out there. It's just, there's something very, I don't know, something that just draws you when you look up and you realize all of the stuff we can do. It's a natural thought to think, we're going up there, we have a future up there. There's a lot of stuff out there that we don't even know what's up there. It's the next challenge. It's the next challenge for our people. And I think challenge is good for us. But, we don't want to lose our minds. We don't want to go so far out into space where it's desolate and there's nothing and just dead worlds. So I think that's why the concept of terraforming has been the most popular concept. Changing dead planets into Earths.
But I do want to like then bring it back, like but like it's nice, but we got to take care of this one first before we like try to go out there. But
we don't seem to know how to take care of this planet, so how the fuck can we transform another one if we're destroying this one? We need to stop destroying this one first. That's kind of the main thing, I would think.
By
to learn to cooperate with each other and with nature. Sorry, next.
The best word, the best phrase I heard by Neirum is balanced approach. This is a key word. And I think even in architecture and even in the kind of technology we use and how we utilize it in the bigger sense, you could see a marriage between the human-produced environment and nature, like to live harmonically.
Right.
Like you see mega cities, and they just level a place and they start to build. Whereas you could have forested areas, you could have roads going underground on a certain way where people can pass and cross from one side to the other without having to destroy mountains or to do harm to the ecosystem. And I think this needs higher skill to create also, and it is a higher form of art to be able to make architecture and a kind of establishment of materials and other structures and how the city plan would be, or even a village plan and so on, that would be barely seen. You see it a bit, this thing in elven architecture in Tolkien. Like, yes, elves have higher technology and architecture than men and a bit higher than dwarves.
Yeah.
But their environment is in tune with the forest and the dales and everything.
Yeah. I think you wanted to also say something more, maybe, Lynn. I want to give the talking stick to you.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Okay. But yeah, I put it now to the other picture too in the stream with ecosystem. You know, in the middle, archetypes, mythology, spirituality, and cultural heritage, civilization. You know, at the very edge, cities and mainstream. And I've put this one up to really like symbolize the you know, the fact that like how like civilization and you know, these cities and you know, what we consider mainstream in modern society really is more of like an outgrowth out of like, you know, really, well, the ecosystem, and you know, and we symbolize it through the archetypes too, and mythology and spirituality and the cultural heritage, you know, in the ancient sense. So it kind of like all derives from each other, but you know, at the very core of that would be the ecosystem and the connection to it, and that balance that's there. You know, this because a give and take relationship is kind of like a balance, and I guess it boils down to that sense of relationship, maybe in a larger sense as well. You know, how it was brought up regarding community and the sense of community as well. So it's not just, you know, about the sense of human community, but I guess the greater community of life, where what kind of like needs to be like understood again, so one can act in ways that's actually, you know, in that kind of balanced relationship. So we and I feel that the elves understood that, you know, and are a symbol for that kind of like relating to the world and each other in a more like harmonious manner. You know, like where we can, I guess, permaculture comes to mind for me. For instance, like how you know, they look way differently towards the land. Like they look at the land how it is, and then they work with the land instead of being like, I want this there or something. It's like, no, the land is like this. This is where the plants can go that work here, and like work with like how it naturally would be. And it's very much like, feel like, yeah, a different mindset. And I think it's an important factor, and like, yeah, to in regarding changing and changing this, and like to do that.
Yeah, it is a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, that is a powerful symbol, the elves, that they still have really cool technology and knowledge, but it's always in harmony and in step with nature itself. And that is, you know, what I'm talking about when I'm thinking about humanity going into the stars or something. It would be to spread more life, you know, and not to destroy it. And I think, you know, we would very quickly get to a point where we could fool around with really cool stuff like that if we did try and live in harmony a little more. It would open up minds to different concepts and ways of thinking that we're blind to right now. You know, and that's the problem, really, the way that we think about things, the way that we approach things.
Yeah.
It's like a different way of interacting with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because it's not like, I don't believe in like that we shouldn't touch anything and we shouldn't change anything about what's growing where, but it's about like having that humility, like that we wouldn't go changing it everything, and like I guess to kind of balance it out, like that there isn't just as like just if somewhere is like a whole lot of one thing, like maybe we can diversify it, or thinking more like that instead of like, oh, I just want a lot of timber, I'm just gonna grow this one type of tree here.
Right.
That's just very bad for the diversity of habitat for different animals and insects, and we really need to keep that in mind, as it
Yeah.
affects everything.
Yeah, but I guess it also just in some sense and boils down to that understanding, and I guess in a way like how sometimes like we talk about it like here, this inner standing, like, you know, this inner knowing or feeling that nature is the real mainstream. It's the main source of you know, all of life, and like how everything else is possible. Like, you know, the going back to this this other image, you know, like the this whole Maslow hierarchy pyramid is only possible because of everything else below it, and none of these human things are possible without the ecosystem, without nature being there. You know, we very much depend upon that, you know, and the connection with nature symbolically also is the connection with the unconscious and with our own true nature as well. So, you know, it's kind of like the very top thing, the self-actualization, the individuation is in a way also, it's the very highest, but then also it's the very lowest too, because it's a kind of a reconnecting to our true nature, and that's also in a way realizing that we are part of the ecosystem and the world. But yeah,
I guess you could think of it like as in you have all your chakras active and it can flow well. It's like you're both connected to nature and to the cosmic energy.
yeah, you can think
Both
about it in that way.
Like we're connected both to our instincts and our intellect, or our spirituality even. We could bring that into sacred nature. And it's not separate things, it's the same. It's connected.
Enough that the true meaning of ecosystem means home system in Greek.
Sorry,
Can't really hear
Anastasios?
you well.
Yeah, you're breaking up. I think the internet connection is.
Yes, like home is home system
Yeah, no.
in Greek. Like ecos is home, and system, it means what stems together.
Okay, I think your connection is getting better now. Can you say that one more time?
Yes, I say that in Greek, the original meaning of the word ecosystem is home system. like a sense of home of things that tend together.
The home system. That's pretty cool.
Mhm. As well as economy, it means how to distribute your home.
Right.
I like this idea of like home system, because it is kind
Yeah.
of like, because the ecosystem is exactly that. It's our home and where we come from. But I also saw, Anastasios, you posted about elves and Ents versus Saruman. Yeah.
Like he sees everything as materials to be utilized and exploited.
Saruman, yes.
The industrial kind of mind.
Yeah. I guess it is.
What do you
Yeah. Go ahead, Neirum.
what do you guys think it would look like to be balanced and living in harmony, but also doing something to prevent us from going off the rails with civilization and cities and just getting it way out of hand with strange technologies? What would a balanced civilization look like? Or do you think there has ever been an example of one like Egypt? Do you think Egypt was a good example of having city and a harmony with nature at the same time?
No, I think, I don't know. I kind of feel like Egypt is a good example of it in like how they worked with the cycles. And I guess that they had a particular mindset.
Remember how they also had those temple spaces where they came together to just to spend time together, or like I think they were like studying, also like telling each other stories, or
Yeah.
maybe even singing or something like that together. And that was how they were bringing that knowledge and wisdom forward in the culture. And that was how they kept that system going of respecting the Nile and the ecosystems, the swamplands, and working together with them. And that was how they brought the knowledge like forward by meeting up and sharing what they knew. So I think that's part of it. Like, what would be a harmonious way would be to share information and time together and insights, and also spending time with nature is how we learn about it.
Very much so. Reminds me of
Yeah.
like you want to go ahead, Naram?
You go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say it reminds me of like the Arctea with Artemis 2, where these there was this part where there was actually the young boys and girls would come together, you know, the children, where they would be educated regarding the environment, and they would do that in the sacred groves, and they would spend their time there as kids to be, you know, educated about nature, about these cycles, and about, you know, this sense of respect towards the environment. You know, and this came from like this older like hunter-gatherer mindset that you know, that we're all